The Blood Eagle Ritual, a test of honor or a mark of betrayal. Did you know that there are hundreds of documented dark rituals throughout history, each more terrifying than the last? Prepare to dive into the twisted practices that have haunted humanity for centuries. In the Viking Age, where honor was a warrior's most prized possession, there existed a ritual so brutal it could twist even the bravest soul's concept of heroism. The Blood Eagle, a rite so terrifying that its mere mention could send shivers down the spine of the fiercest Viking. But what was this ritual, and why was it performed? This gruesome rite involved the disembowelment of the victim, where the ribs were severed from the spine and the lungs pulled out to resemble wings. But this was not merely a method of killing. The Blood Eagle was a ritual laden with symbolism, reflecting the complex interplay of honor, shame, and the afterlife beliefs deeply embedded in Norse culture. For centuries it was believed that the Blood Eagle was a noble death, reserved for the most valiant, a path that could lead to Valhalla. But what if everything we knew about this ritual was wrong? Recent archaeological evidence reveals a shocking truth. The Blood Eagle was not an honor. It was a brutal execution, a punishment reserved for traitors and enemies, meant to strip away their dignity and tarnish their legacy. For a Viking warrior, the realization that the Blood Eagle was a mark of betrayal and not of heroism changes everything. Imagine standing on the battlefield, having fought valiantly, only to face the horrifying prospect that your death could be seen not as a passage to Valhalla, but as a curse. This ritual, once thought to honor the fallen, now looms as the ultimate punishment, a fate that could destroy not just the body, but the very soul. The Blood Eagle was more than just a death sentence, it was a statement. A secret ritual meant to convey power and fear hidden in history. As we uncover these ancient secrets, we find that the truth was far darker than the legends ever told. The warrior's final moments are not about courage, but about survival, of his spirit, if not his body. The mystery of the bog bodies, sacrifice, power, and survival. Deep within the peat bogs of northern Europe, a chilling secret lies buried, bodies perfectly preserved for thousands of years. These are no ordinary burials, they are victims of ritualistic sacrifice, executed in ways that challenge our understanding of ancient societies. But who were these people, and why were they condemned to such brutal ends? The evidence is both fascinating and terrifying. Many of these individuals met violent deaths: hanging, strangulation, throat cutting, and blunt force trauma. Toland Man, found with a noose around his neck, and Graubal Man, beaten before his death, are just two of the many victims whose fates were sealed in the murky waters of these ancient bogs. For years it was believed that these sacrifices were the ultimate punishment for criminals and outcasts. But recent discoveries suggest something far more complex. Some of these victims were not outcasts, but people of high status, possibly even shamans or priests. This new evidence challenges our understanding of these sacrifices, raising unsettling questions about power, privilege, and control in Iron Age societies. Imagine living a life of privilege only to find yourself marked for sacrifice. The fear of death would be compounded by the betrayal of those you once trusted. The bog bodies reveal a society where even the elite were not immune to the whims of the powerful, where sacrifice was a tool of control, and no one, regardless of status, was safe. The secrets of the bog bodies are slowly being revealed, uncovering a dark truth about the lengths to which societies will go to maintain control. As we peel back the layers of history, we find that these sacrifices were not just about appeasing the gods. They were about wielding power, instilling fear, and ensuring that the social order remained intact. The self-mummification of Japanese monks. A journey to enlightenment or madness. In Japan, some monks believed they could reach enlightenment in a very unusual way. They followed a practice called Sokushinbutsu, where they tried to turn themselves into mummies while still alive. It was a long and painful process, but they thought it would bring them closer to the divine. To become a mummy, these monks went through years of intense discipline. They stopped eating normal food and drank a special tea made from a poisonous tree. The poison would stop their bodies from rotting after death. The goal was to purify themselves completely, leaving behind a body that could be worshipped as a symbol of spiritual power. But what happens when the monk starts to have doubts? As he gets closer to his final moments, he begins to question if this path really leads to enlightenment. What if he's just leading himself to a lonely death? This fear makes the journey not just a test of the body, but a battle inside his mind. The monk writes down his thoughts in a diary. He wonders if all this pain and suffering is worth it. What if he's wrong? He's losing strength, and now he's not sure if he will reach enlightenment or just fade away. This struggle is not just physical. It's a deep, personal conflict about faith and fear. The monk's diary holds the secrets of his final days. It shows a man who thought he was on a clear path to spiritual peace, but who now wonders if he's made a terrible mistake. As we read his words, we uncover the truth about Sokushinbutsu. It wasn't just a path to enlightenment, but a test of human endurance and faith. In the end, the monk's journey is a powerful reminder of the struggle between faith and fear. Sokushinbutsu, once seen as a path to eternal peace, now raises questions about the cost of spiritual devotion. Did the monk reach enlightenment, or did he lose himself in the process? This story leaves us wondering about the fine line between dedication and despair. Let's dive into the mysterious cult of the dead in ancient Egypt, a society where death was only the beginning. This was a world where the dead were revered, feared, and sometimes believed to be more powerful than the living. But why? And what dark secrets did these rituals hold? Understanding the ancient Egyptian view of death is like untangling a web of myths, rituals, and beliefs that are as complex as they are eerie. These weren't just religious practices, they were a way to ensure the dead could influence the living world. But these rituals weren't just about honoring the deceased. They were about harnessing their power. Imagine the tension. On one side, a family wanting to stay connected with a loved one, and on the other, a fear that the same spirit might turn malevolent. The challenge? Unraveling why they went to such lengths, and what this says about their fear and fascination with death. Let's take a closer look. Picture this, a grand tomb in Thebes. It's not just a resting place, but a gateway. Inside, rituals are performed not to say goodbye, but to keep the deceased active, influencing events from beyond. These rituals were intricate, from the embalming that preserved the body to the daily offerings meant to nourish the spirit. The cult of the dead was like an ongoing conversation between the living and the dead, a way to maintain power and control. But not all spirits were content. Some were restless, seeking vengeance or justice, leading to rituals that were part communication, part negotiation. This is where it gets intense. These rituals weren't just about respect. They were about survival, both spiritual and physical. Now imagine the most shocking ritual of them all, the letters to the dead. These weren't just prayers. They were direct pleas or demands, written by the living, hoping to sway the spirits. In one such letter, a woman accuses her deceased husband of causing her ongoing misfortune, begging him to stop. The tension here is palpable. This isn't just a ritual. It's a desperate conversation across the divide between life and death, with the power dynamics shifting in real time. What does this say about their belief in the afterlife? That the dead could and would intervene in the most personal and profound ways. The cult of the dead in ancient Egypt wasn't just about honoring those who passed. It was about maintaining a delicate balance of power between the worlds of the living and the dead, filled with fear, respect, and a belief that death was just another form of life. In ancient Egypt, the tombs of pharaohs were not just places of rest, they were the gateways to the afterlife, filled with treasures and secrets. These grand burial sites were meant to ensure the pharaoh's safe journey beyond death, but they also became a stage for dark rituals and betrayals. When a pharaoh died, it was believed that his spirit needed protection on the journey to the afterlife. His closest advisors and servants played a crucial role in this, but with great power came great temptation. The riches buried with the pharaoh could lead to betrayal and greed. But what happens when those trusted to protect the pharaoh's legacy turn against him? The lure of treasure could lead to betrayal, risking the pharaoh's eternal peace. Ancient Egyptians believed that those who betrayed their ruler could face eternal damnation in the afterlife. The tomb was not just a resting place, it was a fortress. Some pharaohs had their tombs designed with false chambers and deadly traps, not just to protect their treasures from thieves, but to test the loyalty of those buried with them. This made the journey to the afterlife as dangerous as any battle fought in life. But the tomb holds more than just traps. Legends of curses added another layer of fear. Many believed that disturbing the pharaoh's rest would bring down divine wrath. Stories of cursed tombs spread fear far beyond the borders of Egypt, as tales of sudden deaths and misfortunes haunted those who dared to enter. The Aztec heart of darkness, faith, doubt, and the sacrificial ritual. In the heart of the Aztec Empire, human sacrifice was more than a ritual. It was the very foundation of life itself. The blood of the sacrificed was believed to sustain the gods, ensuring the continuation of the world. But what happens when those entrusted with this sacred duty begin to doubt? When the rain fails to fall and the gods seem silent, faith can turn into fear. In the midst of a relentless drought, the high priest begins to question everything he has believed. The rituals that once brought rain and prosperity now seem powerless. In secret, he writes down his fears, wondering if the sacrifices are in vain and if the gods have abandoned them. As the drought worsens, the priest's doubts grow. He sees the suffering of his people, families wasting away, children crying for food, and feels the weight of their despair pressing down on him. He knows that if he loses faith, the entire empire could follow. The priest's journal becomes a secret window into his soul. He confesses his fears, his doubts, and his guilt. He wonders if he is leading his people to salvation or to ruin. The words on the page reveal a man torn between faith and fear, between tradition and the terrifying possibility that their gods may not answer. The unsettling rituals of Pazyryk warriors. The Pazyryk warriors of Siberia were not just fighters, they were symbols of their society's beliefs. Their bodies, covered in tattoos of fierce animals and mythical creatures, told stories of bravery and power. But these tattoos were more than just decoration, they were a form of protection, a way to connect with the divine and a sign of honor. But what if they were also a mark of something darker? These tattoos, which seemed to be symbols of honor, might also have been a sign that the warrior was chosen for sacrifice. The Pazyryk believed that some warriors needed to die in a special way to protect their people even after death. But how would you feel if your greatest honor also marked you for death? For a Pazyryk warrior, knowing that your bravery could lead to being chosen for sacrifice would be terrifying. On one hand, you want to be honored, but on the other, you know it might cost you your life. This creates a huge struggle inside. How do you keep fighting when you know victory might lead to your death? The Pazyryk warriors lived in a world where life and death were deeply connected. Their tattoos, their battles, and their deaths were all part of a journey. For these warriors, the pursuit of honor could lead to a fate that was both glorious and terrifying. These dark rituals show us the extremes people have gone to in search of power and control. They're a reminder of the haunting past that shaped our history. What do you think about these rituals? Comment below with your thoughts, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to StrangeLove, and share it with your friends. Stay tuned for more chilling stories.